As an accountant, there's usually only a couple of ways that we receive a new client, and almost all of those require us, of course, to go through and evaluate their existing books, unless they're just a brand new company with nothing. Now, that process of going through and reviewing their financials, as we call it a discovery review, can be very time intensive, and we've got to really dig in deep to make sure we don't miss anything. So today, we're going to check out an app called Scrutinize. It's an application focused around the idea of bookkeeping file review, whether that's through month end or in our scenario, doing that initial discovery to find the little challenges and quirks inside of the company file before we get started. So stick around, join us for this review of Scrutinize. Hi, Matthew Fulton with Parkway.Business Solutions and QB Community Live, the Facebook group. Now, when I start to dive into an app, I always like to do one of two ways. One of them is where I do just an automatic recording of my first experience diving in and seeing how easy it is to set up, connect, and the functionality. I find that's easy when you're trying to just get your feet wet into something. The other is where we do a deeper dive, go through all of the different details specific to this application. That is going to be this video. If you want the quick version of it, check out another video. We'll put a link to it. You can check that one also on our YouTube channel. So let's get started and we'll dive in real quick here. So straight from the page, I do like the fact that you've got the opportunity to do a 14-day free trial. Once you set up, click onto that, you'll enter your information in, and I'm going to register. There's two ways to do this. There's either sign up with QuickBooks, so this is where you'd be linking that connection straight to your company file, or creating it this way. I've always found creating a registration independent is usually one of the best ways to go. So we popped over to our email, got our verification code, be able to type that in for us real quick. So now we've basically verified and we can, thanks to LastPass, go ahead and just sign right in. All right, so firm details, we'll put our company into here. And boom. Creating a new client inside of Scrutinize is super easy. As you can see, step one, step two, you're going to start off by putting a name in. We'll just put in here something random, QBCL for QB Community Live, and then you get to choose your data source. So you've got the choice either integrating to QuickBooks Online, to Xero, or also this upload files. And I wanted to kind of show what that specifically looks like. So what this basically does, it gives you the ability, you can come in, select that, and you can run specific reports in your company file, whether it's QuickBooks Online or even desktop, and then just upload those specific reports in Excel format. It'll tell you exactly, what you're looking for, and it will still do a review based off of those reports. Now, there's more information specifically inside of their help area, which is really easy to get to. They've got a great knowledge base. I really like the details, the information. You can tell they put some time and attention into this, which any good app, it's one of the key things for a good app. You've got to have a good knowledge base. We'd like to also see, product roadmap, so forth. But you can access that support area just by clicking support right at the bottom there. Again, super easy to get to, support tickets, so forth. So in an earlier video, I went through and I actually already ran the process for a company, one of the workflows that they've got 3 different types of workflows you can do. The one I did was basically a summary of what's it going to take to do the books on this. You can get to that information by going to your configurations and you'll see the 3 different workflows here. You can even duplicate one and then customize it. Now, the reason you want to do that, we took the month-end close and I changed it, modified it to where I could come in on certain things and turn off certain features I didn't feel I was going to need. A vendor completeness score, a customer completeness score, so forth. So by creating custom workflows here, you can set it up to where you're starting to streamline the process a little bit. We're going to go back to the existing one we did before. We'll come in and just click on this scope of work idea to show you again in better detail this time, like the different steps it's going through and the detail that it's going to show you. As I talked about in the configurations, you can change quite a bit of what will be seen here and what won't. Let's go into the first one. We'll just go transaction report, and you can see kind of step by step. Love the cleanliness, love the look, the colors, everything else. It's just very comfortable and inviting. Looks like you can undo. So if you've got somebody that's their job is to review this stuff as a monthly close and they click it, you can undo it, of course, as well. So the first one, transaction by account type. This is basically going to break out and tell you your different account types: income, expense, bank, credit card, so forth, and what types are you using primarily. This company file we're showing you with happens to be one where it's, we do more post-transactional accounting, so it's a lot of bank feed stuff, so you're not seeing as much of a split, but you get the point. Last reconciled date, very, very important. This is obviously going to tell you, hey, how frequently was it done? So on a monthly, when you're doing monthly, you want that to be completed every single month, and you'd be looking at those kind of dates. It shows you the date when it was last done. This is why we're doing this one at this time. Description, a little bit of extra insights here as well. If we go further down, transaction by type breaks it out a little bit further. So if you want to view the details, you can then dive in a little bit further as well, I believe, and it starts to break it out by like a name, description, account, so forth. Same thing, deposits for checks. So checks is a great example of this, always having to do paper checks and manually update that information. This would be a way you could review and see if any of those snuck past, of course. Transaction count by bank and credit card account. So separating by the different accounts, how much, where are you using more, where. And then I really like this transaction by month. So for us, especially if we're just scoping something out for the first time, we are always trying to look at what's the kind of volume that's coming through, because that's going to determine how much time theoretically we're going to spend, before we start doing our efficiencies with rules and such. So once we've gone through these, we would click completed, and we'd go over to flags overview. Now, this anomaly type, you can actually, again, turn it on and off if you'd like and see what parts. This is telling us what hasn't been reconciled. Inconsistent customer coding and inconsistent vendor coding. That's going to be if you've got a vendor that is being used for two different types of expense account, that is what it's talking about. Customers, if the setup there is, again, if it's going to two different places, you're able to evaluate that and review it. Anomaly name, let's see here. So this is the different accounts that it would be in. We can see these are check numbers and the amounts, but we don't have any names on them. Again, that's a manual thing we'll have to go through. So it's nice to be able to see that. Debits income, credits to expenses. So in other words, why are these things going to a contra account or the wrong side? Something may be a little weird with that part of it. You can export each individual one if you wanted to, or wait until the end and then download the whole thing. The next part, user activity. So as I've talked about in another video, whenever you're setting up with QuickBooks Online, you want to make sure that everybody who has access has their own login and password. A lot of people may try to save on subscription and shrink that down, but the only way you're ever going to be able to tell if there's a question or challenge, like who needs to be trained or educated with it, is if you can see who's doing what. It also allows, if you need to go into an audit log, maybe a change was done on purpose and you want to know who was doing that stuff. So this is interesting. It kind of tells you really who's working in the file, who's getting the stuff done. And here, I'm the only person as the accountant doing it, so I'm the one doing all the work onto it. You're only seeing one person. So we would, of course, here we would go to the next activity. Our next thing we'll go at the top here is we'll go to housekeeping is the next section. And now we start to see again the vendor profile completeness score. So this is going to dive in deeper, making sure that the profile details are there. What we mean by that, of course, is when we're going fast and we're trying to get stuff through the bank feed area, if there isn't a vendor created, we need to create one. Well, some vendors, like a gas station, I really don't care about Chevron's address. So we'll create a vendor name, but not a company name sometimes if we don't want it to show that way. But we need at least a name on every single transaction. And if that whole information, like address, number, everything else isn't there, I believe that's where this is trying to pull up extra information. This would be one that you may not have turned on all the time in your monthly review, of course. Customers, same kind of a setup. If you're doing a lot of your invoicing through a point of sale and it's not being done through QuickBooks Online on their invoices, well, then you're always going to have a low score here, really, because you're not going to have customer names with information inside that. So you may need to just turn that off and not be worried about it. transaction volume by customer, hey, it's a great way to be able to see, who's doing the most business with you as well. And then our chart of accounts. Chart of accounts is an area that can get out of control super, super quick. This is going to give you more detail, basically showing you the type of account that you're using, whether it's an expense, income, so forth. As you would expect for the kind of accounting we're doing, it's a lot of expense. That's pretty common, of course. This is great where, especially with QuickBooks Online, the usage, as you go from plus to advanced, a big part of that has to do with the number of accounts you're using in classes. So this kind of shows you, hey, maybe you can shrink some of that down if there's a lot of unused accounts. So that's a way to quickly review it and, hopefully save you some money as well. And you'll start to list these out. You can break it out further, of course. So then we would have gone through all of these. Now we get down to the big stuff, of course, the financial reports. If for AR, accounts receivable and accounts payable, you can customize these. It's one of the things I did in my special workflow to make it where maybe you don't want anything to show up if it isn't at least 30 days past, or if it's not at least $1,000, past due, something of that nature. You can customize that part of it to have it show up here. Again, this one being a company file that doesn't really have ARAP, we're not seeing stuff, but we could customize a report for future to streamline and make the process even faster to review all of this. I think the most important parts, of course, are going to be like your profit and loss variance and your balance sheet variance. So this is one of the best ways to truly go through and find if there's ever a challenge in your books. I always tell everybody when you're just getting started, the side with the accounts, if you set this up where you're doing it month by month by month next to each other, right? Ignore the names and just start looking at the trends. If you have 1 month that all of a sudden your income is super high, but then the next month you notice you don't have any income, well, it could be the way things were paid or landed into different periods. It's a good way to, again, track your different expenses. You're going to use it for cash flow analysis, for budgeting, so forth. And if you find that there's major variances, something could be miscategorized. Again, great way to find this. This is a nice, clean, easy way to get to it. If you come into these, what I like is if you click in deeper, I believe you can actually dive in and then pull more information from QuickBooks Online here to be able to see more specific information. We'll refresh the screen here because I froze it up there real quick. And then we'll take a look at the balance sheet as well. Balance sheet, same kind of concept. I like that you can also, of course, come through here, shrink down the different areas so it's not this huge long thing. If you don't have certain areas you need to look at, you can shrink it down and evaluate as you need to. Once we've gone through all of that, in that point we've basically gone through, we'd say we've completed, and we showed this earlier in another video, but the process to go through once that's done, it took, I literally less than 2 minutes for it to actually pull up the reporting and everything I needed and gave us a scope of work report right here. This makes it to where now I can click on it and I can see, again, go back to this area, we can see everything, and I can then come through, I can export down to Excel and pull that up. I can basically rerun it, I believe, through here as well. So it's going to fetch this information again, see if there's any changes. If I went in, did a whole bunch of work and want to check it again, basically for the same period. With the reporting, as that's running, drops into Excel. So opening it in Excel, you'll basically get this beautiful Excel sheet that's got each of the different tabs here for what we basically have been reviewing. As you can see, I can kind of scroll over and each individual one is going to have more detail. So again, keep in mind, you can change what reporting you do or do not want to have more or less tabs. It's going to give you a basic description and some insights off of this as well. I'm interested to find out if it'd be nice if we could kind of customize this for our firm to go specifically to our clients. Maybe a white label, put our logos into this as well. Would be kind of cool ideas in the future. So the last area to kind of review real quickly is just some of the setting stuff on the side. And there's not much to this, of course. Coming into settings, you're basically going to have your a pending invitation. So if you've invited somebody, internally from my team, they can come in, they'd be able to work on stuff, whether they've accepted or not, your firm members and their specific roles. Authentication, you have the ability to do multi-factor authentication onto this. This is an important thing, especially with some of the new FTC guidelines and requirements coming up about our responsibility of protecting financial data. So this would be something that helps keep that protected and clean. And then you've got your billing, $5 per client per month. I mean, it's a super cost-effective price plan for it. They've got some other pricing structures on the site that let's try to pull it up for you real quick here. If you need to do something bigger with a larger team, you can reach out to them and they'll work with you basically. When we come back here, so again, configuration, you've got the ability, you can just come in, edit the name, duplicate, and if you want to modify this, you can come right in, click on it, you'll see just the toggles back and forth, make the changes you need. This is probably the biggest one, the default transaction flag. Looking at evaluating this as to which ones you want, and again, making edits. So count receivable credits, how severe is it, how much, days elapsed. So if this is higher priority to you, you can change it. If you want it by a dollar amount and like a period of time, you could change that. Once you've customized all of that stuff, hit your save changes, and it's now updated that specific workflow for you. So hopefully this review of Scrutinize gives you a little bit better detail about this new application, what it's capable of doing. Scrutinize is something that's a little bit newer to the market. They've got some great funding behind them, so definitely this is going to be something that's going to be sticking around for sure. We've been hearing a great buzz about it throughout the accounting community. So again, trying to address one of the biggest challenges we have as accountants is how do we get into that file first off, look at it, get an idea of the scope of work, and then even from there, the quality control month after month, trying to standardize or make it a little bit simpler to quickly review from a manager's level, like, hey, how's everything looking? If my team has done all the work, I can come into something like this, evaluate, make sure there's no major flags. If I see something, note back to the people, say, try again, let's get this going. But make sure we're always putting out quality books for our clients. With so many different applications out there and new ones coming out all the time, it can be very difficult to get out there and try and test every single app that's out in the market. So if you liked this video, if you found it to be helpful, do me a favor. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and of course, we'd love to have you join our Facebook group, QB Community Live. QB Community Live is a group of it's bookkeepers, accountants, tax professionals, and office managers, all focused around the idea that sometimes when you have accounting challenges, you need to get some support from people that actually know what you're doing, get some video responses to actually see how it's done. So it's a great community to go into. You can ask for assistance, get some great support from professionals, instead of reaching out to other support lines that take too long and maybe don't get you quite the answers that you need. If you have additional questions about this app, or even maybe want to suggest a different app we should review, please leave some comments below. We'll follow up, answer, and see what we can do to help there. And as always, we appreciate you taking the time to watch, and here's wishing you a very successful day.